The things that we learned there were more about just getting to know the new boat. We didn't set that boat up much differently than we normally would set up our little boat, with the exception of the fact that it's heavier and bigger and you make adjustments for that. And Dave and Dan and myself, we've had some experience with big boats. They've had more than me. So we made some of the adjustments that have been learned on the bigger boats versus our little boat. Some of the systems that were in the boat that we expected to work perfectly, one of them completely failed, and I was in charge of that. Some of the systems worked absolutely flawless. It was just like any other test. You have good things and bad things. I think the luck of the weather was unbelievable. It was supposed to snow. We weren't supposed to have a crane. We were trying to figure out how to get a crane on that side of the mountains instead of this side in case it snowed. And that didn't happen. We got the crane in, but when we were driving in, the wind was blowing 30 miles an hour on Friday, and we wake up the next day, perfect weather. I mean, gorgeous weather. And everybody worked really well together. Of course, everybody's really professional. We have a group of guys right now that are seasoned and respect each other, and that's pretty important. There was no disagreements, arguments, or anything. I mean, everything was talked about was, yeah, that's what we're going to do. I mean, it was, of course, there was no stress of racing or anything, so there, that piece wasn't in there. I think the boat will be really fast. I think it will. The acceleration factor is really, really interesting on that boat. Dustin drove it some, and he had some really interesting comments to make about the difference of the two boats. He was amazed at how much different that boat was. So we're really looking forward to how this is all going to happen here. Sharon, how was your weekend? That
Over
weekend?
there?
Yes. You were looking like you had a pretty good time.
I had an excellent time. Obtaining that boat was not something we planned much in advance. The opportunity just happened, and we decided to go for it. The hardest thing for me, since that test, well, even before that test, obviously, is right after we obtained the boat, the COVID happened, and we found out, we were so excited to get that boat, and then found out we couldn't race it. And that was really hard. That day I had a really good time. It's fun to watch that boat go so fast.
That was a good day.
Yeah, my confidence level went sky high when it goes around one time. Kelly goes, "Oh my God, that thing's a rocket." So I went, okay, that's good.
The 2020 Pateras test was a great success. We didn't think it was going to happen, but it did, and we learned a lot. We have some things to improve on from there. We worked well as a team and learned a lot. Now, that was what the whole idea was on going out there. We didn't learn a ton on setup, but the idea was just to work as a team, make sure we're not lacking in any areas, and move on to the next test session. We had a long off season with no racing last year, so we were pretty well prepared for the test session in Pateras. But we did find things with some setup and things we just wanted to improve on, and a lot of it is just being prepared, so if you have an issue, you know how to tackle it right away. And that was one area we were lacking in a little bit. So we found a lot of those key things that need to be improved on, and that's what we've been working really hard on doing. And the rest has just been building spares and preparing for a full race season, should we have one. The 2021 field is the most competitive I've seen it in a very long time. As a racer, that makes it more challenging, but as a fan, that's what you want to see. And we're all fans before we're racers, and you know what? We want to go out there and succeed and do well, not just because it's the only, because it fell into our lap. We want to earn it, and you're definitely going to have to earn it this year because the field is stacked and there's a lot of new energy, and it's going to be exciting.
We're at a 96% finish rate right now. It's never been that good ever in the history of the sport. The competition, people are talking about the 1974 Seattle Heat where Budweiser and Pan Pac raced each other. Well, we get one of those a weekend now, you know, and I might be a little bit optimistic. We get several a season, let me say that. And right now we have Darryl Strong, who is an aggressive owner that has 2 extremely good boats, and he's building a racing organization that is certainly one to be contended with. We have our new boat, and we would like to consider ourselves someone to be contended with. The Tukwila group has 2 boats that are extremely good with good drivers in, and they're a good team. The 11, they've always been there, and they're really good. And Graham, he's got one boat that's really fast, the other one is an older boat. So how many boats is that that's going to run and capable? They're all capable of winning. And normally you have 2, maybe 3 boats that are capable of winning in a season. Usually 2. Now you've got just about all of them are capable of winning on any given day, which means the national championship is going to be hard fought. And I expect the points will be very low, but very close. Instead of one boat running away and having a huge number of points, you're going to have a lot lower set of points for the winner, but the points will be spread out, and you won't have one boat winning 3 or 4 or 5 races. You're going to have 3 or 4 or 5 boats winning 1 race, is what I predict. But boy, I'll tell you what, there's some fine drivers out there, and there's some great equipment coming out this year. I don't think it's been this good in certainly a decade, if not longer.
I'm very excited. They have more knowledge than I have. They've forgotten more than a lot of people will know in their lifetimes when it comes to boat racing, and it's incredible. So working with them in 2014 was a huge experience for me because I was so fresh and new to the sport, and being able to come at it with being around that professional of a crew really taught me a lot as to how I want to run a team, or how I want to be a part of a team, and how I want to make the team succeed. And I'm excited to work with them again. They bring a very high quality of standard to our team, and it shows, and it's going to show, and just excited.
Of course, we build our own propellers, and our propellers are significantly different than the typical propeller that the other guys run. And so gear ratios were something that we learned. That was a big one, finding the knowing whether our predictions of what gear ratios we needed was correct or not, because you live and die by your gear ratios. We took that out of there, and we have been working on getting our series of gear ratios correct. The ride of the boat, I mean, I felt we were kind of ready to go racing right then and there. That thing behaved very nicely. I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised because of the people that are helping me set this thing up they know what they're doing. So it was nice that it worked out the way it was supposed to. Yeah. As far as what we're doing to get ready for the season, I'm building propellers like there's no tomorrow. We built several rudders. We built a couple of skid fins. That's what I do. I don't hide any of that. And so we have an arsenal of all that. And we have some other things that we're trying to do with the boat that will make it easier to like change the engines in and out and make sure that the engine alignment's correct and things like that. It's stuff we knew that you should do, and we put that knowledge into the boat, or experience, to make lining engines and gearboxes and things like that more streamlined than it is in a lot of the boats. And it's very important because you can cause wear and tear and damage to your drive system if everything's not aligned. And so now you're trying to fix something instead of improve it. Whenever you're repairing something, you're spending time trying to get back to where you were. So if you can stop repairing things, then you spend that time improving things. And that's a lot of people don't realize that if you're repairing, you're almost going backwards, because you're spending that time just to get back to where you were instead of going forward. And that's pretty important to me, because we have a real small crew compared to all the rest of the teams, in my opinion. We're going to try and run 2 boats with like 8 people, and that's going to be tough to do. And everybody is going to have to make sure that when you do it right, so that it doesn't fail, because we cannot be fixing things. We just don't have enough people to do it.
I'm excited for our first qualifying session. See what the boat will do, see if it'll do what we think it'll do, and I'm excited for our last qualifying session to see if it did what we think it will do, because that's what we're here for, is to make the boat faster, and we plan on racing every race and giving it our all every time. So that's what I'm most excited for.